So, welcome to Poly Role Models. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I always forget to plan my about me before things, and then I'm like, what do I do? Who am I? What do I say? But my name is Taylor Mace. I'm a sex worker and sex educator based out of Toronto, Canada. I focus mostly on transness, on a little bit on non-monogamy, mostly on kink and mental health,
Fair enough.
and a lot on sex work as well, obviously.
Awesome. 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 So, how long have you been polyamorous or been practicing polyamory?
Um, Probably for about 7 years now, openly. Uh, I was never great at monogamy when I was doing it. I was also not a good person back then, so
Fair
bit
enough.
of both.
Yeah, we all learn. We all grow.
Yeah.
Um, what does your relationship dynamic look like?
So right now I have a couple people that I consider partners. I have my partner who I live with, and then I have a long distance partner who lives a couple provinces away. And then I have a couple people who I have ongoing kink dynamics with, but I'm not in romantic relationships with.
That's fair. And what aspect of polyamory do you feel you excel at?
I think I'm pretty good at balancing time with people, um, even when I'm all caught up and excited in one person. And I think I'm good at understanding that different people need and want different things, and not I've never really struggled with that too much. Um, Whereas my long distance partner is very good at thinking that if he wants the thing, I that would also benefit me, or vice versa. When that isn't always the case.
Fair. And what aspects do you feel you struggle with?
I think historically I have run into a lot of issues with the introducing people to each other moment.
Hmm.
I have really not done well at that. I would like to think I'm improving, um, but time will tell.
Well, how do you address that then? How do you feel like you overcome it?
Lots of conversations, so many conversations about it. Um, Especially with the person I'm with now, the two people that I mentioned earlier. Their meeting, I completely blew in a way that I didn't think the three of us were going to be able to overcome, but we have, which is very nice.
Awesome.
But it took a lot of learning about the ways I was behaving that I didn't realize they were being interpreted in different ways, um, and talking about how to get past that and addressing specific concerns and insecurities that came up with myself and with my partners along that time.
Okay. As far as risk aware or safer sex, how do you and your partners protect one another?
I think that being open with everyone involved about the fact that there are other people and what the risks are, and talking with the partners that you're involved with about what their comfort levels are, because one person might be comfortable with fewer barriers than another, but also through my work as a full service sex worker, I have a fairly like scheduled and intensive testing regime. Every 3 months I get another test, and that helps me and my anxiety feel good about interacting with a bunch of other people, either on a romantic level or just through my work. Uh, yeah, and just keeping each other informed of what we're doing with other people and what the risks are.
Okay, okay, thank you. Um,
Hmm?
what is the worst mistake you've ever made in your polyamorous history, and how did you rebound from that?
Um, that would probably be when I started seeing my dominant. He, I met him as a client. He was my client. Um, and I was in very serious denial for a while about the fact that I was in love with him. Because he was giving me a decent amount of money and I didn't want to lose that. Uh, so I wasn't communicating to my partners about, my feelings for him
Yeah.
and what was going on. And he's from out of town and he was visiting 1 week years ago now. And we had negotiated what it was that he was having my services for. And then I just vanished off the face of the earth because I was so excited by his existence, and I spent all my waking hours with him, and that wasn't what we had agreed on, and that wasn't what had been communicated, and that caused a lot of problems going forward from that. And just in general, the fact that for 7 months or however long it had been that I had been engaging with this one, I was lying to myself and to my other partners about what my feelings were and what was going on. And I didn't realize I was, but I still was. Yeah, it was not so great for a while.
Yeah.
But rebounding from that, mostly a lot of conversations, like I said, but also a lot of time, a lot of time. It took a couple of years to smooth things over. They seem to be good now, which I like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were able to sort of rebuild the trust. Yeah.
Yes, me too.
All right. What self-identities are important to you, and how do you feel like being polyamorous intersects with or affects those self-identities?
So I'm queer and trans and disabled and a sex worker. And those are the things that other than non-monogamy, that really impact how I form relationships. Anyway, those are the things that really impact how I form relationships with people, even on a friendship level. And what was the second half of that question? Sorry.
Well, just yeah. Well, no, just how do you feel like being polyamorous intersects with those?
Okay. I find it's helpful because I have bipolar, and I have a lot of, I'm not going to say needs because everyone has a lot of needs, but my mental illness makes me a lot to handle at times. And I also, like people of all genders and all genitals, and I like being dominant, I like being submissive, I like all the kinks, with very few exceptions. I, especially in my more manic states, I like a lot of these things at once. And not even just in terms of sex stuff, but I have found historically that my personality and the way that it manifests is very difficult for one person to manage after we're out of NRE. And I also don't think it's fair to ask one person to, and I don't want them to, but I've found that for me, polyamory has worked really well for helping me make sure that my needs get met without putting too much on one person. Even if I'm only with one person at the time, the fact that there is that option makes it easier on the two of us, I think.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Last but not least, do you have any groups, projects, websites, blogs, etc., that you are involved with that you'd like to promote?
Sure. I do sex education, like I mentioned, and my website is feistyfoxfilms.com, and there will eventually be porn and stuff on there as well, but, tech is not my strong suit, as I mentioned earlier, so that's taking a little bit,
Okay.
but it will be there, and it will be glorious and hot, and people will like it, I promise. Those are my two main projects. Obviously, like I said, I'm also a sex worker, but laws on that are weird, especially internationally.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying, but you have my name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and participating with Poly Role Models.
No problem. That was actually really quick.
Yeah.
You weren't lying.